Now, one of the world's largest arms and security shows is wrapping up north of Paris in a year marked by growing demand for drone technology and the omnipresence of artificial intelligence. Military spending was up in 2025, mainly here in Europe, with a 14% increase. This year, Eurosatory's show was also marked by the shutting down of 12 Israeli pavilions. France says they have failed to comply with the rules set earlier this month that Israeli companies were only allowed to show weapons used to defend the population from aerial and missile attacks. For more on this story, we can bring in France 24's Shirli Sitbon. Shirli, great to see you as always. These rules were put in place to, given what we've seen over the past few years, whether it's Israeli operations on the ground in Gaza, the West Bank, in Lebanon. So why is this causing controversy now?
Well, for several reasons. First of all, some people say that Israel shouldn't participate in this in any case. And some people outside this defense show said that this defense show shouldn't even exist because of all the weapons being sold, or all the people making millions and companies making billions because they're selling all these weapons. So there were protests outside. But France, with everything that's happening in the Middle East, with everything that happened in Gaza mainly, believed that it found the right formula, not excluding Israel entirely, but banning any offensive weapon. And another rule also, not just that, and we can see actually the part of an email that was sent to me by the Defense Ministry. The second rule is that only material used for aerial defense or anti-missile defense can be used. Maybe we don't have that statement, but that is the email that they sent. Why did they send me that email? Because the Israelis were complaining. This is the statement from the French government, the Ministry of Defense. They're saying that it's not just offensive weapons that are banned. They really only want weapons that allow to defend the civilian population. Even bulletproof vests cannot be sold in the Israeli booths because they're used by soldiers on the field. So they only tolerate weapons that are used to defend from missiles and from drones when you're in Israel. That's basically the rule. And we can look at a piece of an article written by Le Monde, who spoke with one of the people, the manufacturers who were there, and he manufactures batteries. He says no weapons, batteries which are used, you can see this, everything I produce is electric batteries used for drones, communication system, and robots, but no weapons. That's what he said. And he said that until the eve of the show, of this defense show, the organizers told him he was fine, but in the end, his booth was blocked. He says he doesn't understand. So we looked into this a bit, and actually the observers are writing an article about this later today. And some people did not show some weapons, but they promoted weapons, and the salon and the show and the ministry said you're not allowed to do that. Even promoting, marketing these weapons used by Israel is completely banned. That was their decision. And of course, the Israelis really wanted to stay there. The French really trying to play on all fields, not to be accused of tolerating Israeli weapons here next to Paris. At the same time, they can't discriminate because there were several court decisions last time there was the show saying that you can't just exclude a company because its nationality is Israel.
For the Israelis, this decision is purely about business, essentially trying to keep a competitor in check. But for the French, it's more about a matter of principle. That's what they're saying.
Absolutely. And we can look at the figures, which were brought by several French newspapers, with this graph showing basically, not to play on words, but the explosion of the weapon sales by Israel. When you look between 2024 and 2025, about 30% increase in sales, mainly aerial defense. But actually, we can see a weapon there on the graphic, but it's not that as being sold by the Israelis here in Europe. And France and Israel are selling now roughly the same, and they have the same market. The European market is the one Israel sells the most to. So what the Israelis are saying is that they want to be there anyway in Eurosatory. Even though there are less companies, they still want to sell and buy. Israel needs to continue to buy weapons, and more and more countries don't want to sell components to Israel because of what's happening in Gaza and in Lebanon. That's an issue. And sometimes they sell through other companies, which are American or from other nationalities.
I mean, France, of course, exports a lot of weapons too. Now, the French government is trying to mute criticism against its own military for selling weapons to the Middle East, for instance, in Egypt.
Yes, and we can see that report. It was published in 2023. We can see it was published by Disclose, and it says that there are French weapons, French surveillance material, French troops used in operations, an operation called Shirli, with Egyptian troops, and they were used to target and kill Egyptian alleged smugglers, not terrorists. It was supposed to be an anti-terrorist operation, but it was used against alleged smugglers, and the troops, the soldiers who heard about that, alerted the generals, and nothing was done, apparently, according to this article about this. And when this was issued, the French government tried to sue the journalists and Disclose. They told the journalist she should give her sources. She refused. They tried to sue her. The court said that they couldn't. So now they're bringing this back. We can see some images of Ariane Lavrieux. Now the decision will be taken early July whether she, the journalist, will be sued or not for giving that information. And the French authorities, 3 years on, are saying this article needs to be taken offline now.